Welcome to Keeping Up with Trends. This is Fed Zach, senior trading strategist here at CMTrading, and we're joined with Sergio Davids, our host. So it's another day, but another year.
Yeah, can't wait, man. So I was hoping that you could peer into the proverbial crystal ball and we take a look at, do a bit of a 2024 outlook, specifically about trading and trends. Sound good?
It sounds great. Let's go. Let's do it.
Awesome. So I think the big thing on, specifically in the US' mind is going to be the 2024 US presidential election, right? It's hopefully, or, hopefully not, going to have a major impact on, a lot of things. It's obviously a race we're all going to watch with, great anticipation. So what are your thoughts on how it's going to affect the markets?
I am. I've never been more scared of an election year than I've ever been in my life. And there've been pretty
Jeez.
scary ones in my life, including
Yeah.
George Bush Jr.,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
which I thought was a disaster.
Yep.
Not that he's a bad person, but I just didn't think that he was presidential.
No.
Anyway, so I mean that's my personal thing.
A few changes in Florida and we would have seen Al Gore. Imagine
Yeah,
how that
right.
would have been.
Yeah. Well, it started there, didn't it? And so it's
Yeah.
funny because you say that, and there's always like a ounce of truth with that. Um, and it's like as if the Democrats are, you know, I don't know if you believe in conspiracy theories, but it's like as if the Democrats are getting their fight back with Trump. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like Trump is leading the way in the Republican.
At least in terms of the nominee, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he's gonna.
So
But yeah, go ahead.
what? Well, I'll tell you what. What for traders out there, right? What sort of assets are we looking at will be affected by U.S. election? Just looking back. I mean, an easy one for me will obviously be the U.S. dollar, right? If there's
So
no election turmoil, could it be safe to say it'll be stable?
I think one of the biggest contentions between the Democrats and the Republicans is this pipeline in America, where
Right.
he wants coal to be a major substance um, of energy
Right.
resource, as opposed to clean energy and all that stuff. I don't want to get into the politics. We're
Yeah,
getting into
sure.
politics. But
They shut that pipeline down, eh?
they did
I
shut
mean, the
down.
Biden
The Democrats
administration,
did.
yeah. Yeah.
Now, this is the challenge as a president of the United States. This is how I look at the United States. There's a general trend in America, and then there's a specific trend that a president leads the massive cargo ship. If you look at America as like this massive cargo ship, right?
Right.
Now, if you move it 1 degree, from one moment to the next, it's not going to be that big of a difference.
Right.
But over 4 years, you've gotten to a different location, right?
Yeah.
And over 8 years, you've got into a further location because you're still off 1 degree. So the effects of the presidency on American trends is inherent. Its effectiveness is inherent in the fact that it could be in office for longer than 4 years. Now, President Trump was in office for 4 years. I should
Right.
say former President Trump. Now, he tried to change a lot of things all at one time.
Right.
Now, for business, he was great. He gets an A+ for business. Cultural homogeneousness, he gets an F.
Yeah. No arguments there.
Bringing the country together, he maybe a D- to an F. Because listen, the Democrats also contributed to it. It wasn't like as if
Just on that, right? I never it I know it goes against, the principles of, well, specifically the US, Constitution, but it is damn near impossible to try and move a country into, a good direction within less than 5 years. Because you spend your first year or so, at least historically, undoing everything that the previous, regime installed. And then hopefully you spend the rest of the time, having new bills, passing new laws, that kind of thing, only for the next regime to take over and the cycle begins again. And for me, that's
So
crazy.
yeah, so as you're saying that, the first images in my head that pop out from that is uh, former President Trump um, sitting there in the White House the first week, and
Yeah.
he's signing a bunch of bills that were already, put into motion. Um, you know, and so like from the time that he was elected to the time that he was inaugurated, they already set it up, and all he had to do is just sign there, and boom, it happened,
Yeah.
right? And then when President Biden came in, same thing. All the things that he changed from the
Yeah.
previous argument. Okay, so yeah, look, I mean, America's not a perfect place.
Right.
There, and it's as Ray Dalio says, Ray Dalio is one of the uh, fund managers of today's day and age. Probably one of the more popular ones. He's not a he's he, style very different than Warren Buffett, but also a tremendous philosopher, um, and really sounding like a very um, decent guy. Okay, like
Right.
on a personal level. And so Ray Dalio says that we've got the perfect storm brewing. We've got inner conflict, we have conflict internationally, and we have an economic imbalance. All three, if you look in history, are all recipes for world war. All of them. Internal conflict,
Yeah. It's never
international
been.
conflict,
Yeah.
and economic imbalance. All three of them.
I would have never thought that back in 2022 that Putin would have done what he did and is continuing to do in Ukraine and setting us up for, you know, catastrophe slash World War III in Europe. And yet, if you look globally, there's a potential war, in South America with Venezuela and its tiny neighbor, struck oil off its coast. And I'm trying to think of there's a third conflict as well that's now popped up. But yeah, it's scary.
We're in
It's
the Middle
scary to
East.
think. Um, no, I was thinking it's in Africa. Um, yeah, with all the revolutions we've had over the past year in Africa, it's just a very uncertain time, in the world. And the fact that the war in Ukraine is still going on, is crazy. And you always tell me that volatility is a good thing, for traders. So if we can just get back to the U.S. election, right? Would that not be sort of the perfect time, for traders?
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a tremendous uncertainty. The markets are going to stall or sell off at a certain point.
Yeah.
And depending, what happens between convictions for this is crazy. There are two presidents, two people that are seeking. One is seeking a second presidency for his continuous second term, and one is
Right.
seeking a second presidency, for his inconsecutive. And they may
Inconsiderate, yeah.
and the funny and the really crazy thing is, and I spoke to a older mentor of mine, someone who's been
Right.
around. I mean, he's my father's age. He's in his 80s. A really probably the coolest guy. One of those cool guys, like he's young at heart. Um,
Okay, I see what you
li-
mean.
likes nice toys, but you know, very funny. And I always looked at him as a as a role model and as a mentor. And I was seeing him I ran into him in some celebration, and I said to him, what's going to happen? Like, when is it all gonna, chips gonna fall? He's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. He said, we may have two candidates sitting in jail being convicted. And that's a scary thought.
I
Imagine
think
they're both.
one is more likely than the other. But
No, I
yeah,
don't think
that
so.
is a
They're
crazy
not letting down.
that is a crazy thought.
They're
And
not
I think
letting down,
both
Sergio.
rushing. Well, you know, they're both rushing towards the presidency because he who becomes presidency can avoid, jail time. So yeah, for me, it's very interesting to watch from the outside. Um, moving on to commodities, right? We've seen gold have record highs in 2023. And, you always tell me that, when things are uncertain in the US specifically, right? The US dollars uncertain, people turn to, safe havens like gold, right? And we saw a record spike in gold. Is that going to be the case in 2024 with sort of ongoing uncertainty?
So, I think that the spike of gold is really like also, it's a inflation. It's number one, it's
Okay.
inflation. Number two, it's also geopolitical imbalance in the world. I mean, there are these proxy wars between America, Russia slash China,
Yeah.
um, in all parts of the world. Um, and it's like the world is it's like it's on a certain track right now that is headed to potentially disastrous places.
You know, you mentioned China there, and I was just thinking back. That's the other sort of conflict, the China-Taiwan, major standoff. It's quite possible that they could invade, Taiwan in 2024. And then
And
we'd
they've
have
been
three
saying it.
major global, and they've been saying it, and they've been pushing for it. And yeah, it's another
And it's
scary,
like
situation.
it's tit for tat. They're playing this like dancing game with each other. I don't remember in my lifetime
Yeah.
a bigger threat to world um order or world
What, world peace?
imbalance
Yeah.
than now. Yeah, or world peace than right now. It's scary
Yeah.
because
Scary place to be.
decisions are not made. You don't go from 0 to 60 in a second.
Yeah.
Um, but the world is, slowly. It's small things like, um, America and Russia signed a Triad Act. The Triad Act
Right.
pretty much states that they're not allowed to use certain type of weapons. Um, and I believe it's the Triad Act.
Right.
Um, and they kind of did away with it.
That's fascinating. They would, and has wide-reaching ramifications. Um, you know, one of the winners, I guess, of 2023 were the tech companies. I mean, I can think of Nvidia specifically, you know, joining the trillion-dollar club, which was once the exclusive realm of Apple and Saudi, what's it, Aramco. But it's not just the only one. I mean, tech companies came out of nowhere, tech stocks specifically, to end the year with record highs. So, what are your thoughts on stocks going forward?
So, okay, so that really reflects the U.S. economy, and that's, I think, election is going to play a big time, big,
Yeah.
big, big thing in it. Um, so it's going to be kind of interesting. I mean, it's another factor that the Federal Reserve may start decreasing interest rates in the second quarter, as we get into elections. um,
Will
second or
will that
third quarter.
will that be
I'm sorry.
a boon to, companies?
Well, it depends. It depends how the market takes it. Um,
Okay.
you know, it's and depends how they do it. It depends how the Fed does it. Are they going to be aggressive? They're going to be conservative.
Okay. Okay.
Um, is it to stall deflation? Because that becomes a problem. Um, there's a lot of where whenever you react or overreact to a certain situation, bringing it back to balance, that middle ground, takes a much longer time. So they said that it'll be higher longer, which may mean that we may see these interest rates for going into the second, maybe even third quarter. But for right now, they've stopped increasing interest rates. And we hope that inflation is in check. So looking at stocks, yeah, AI is a tremendous, tremendous potential.
Oh yeah.
If you look into potential business revenue that's going to be generated from AI, it's going to be a lot. But the question
Yeah,
is
it's gonna.
to
It's. I mean, look, it's already disrupting. That
but
was
the question is
2023.
what's the what's going to be the cost for it? What's going to
Well,
be
yeah. Look, obviously, with any kind of disruptor, we're going to see some pushback from traditional, markets that it's disrupting. I mean, the same thing happened when Uber, came into play and caused riots around the world with their respective taxi associations. Right now, I see there's a case laid by the New York Times against OpenAI and ChatGPT specifically for allegedly scraping their articles, and sending that out into the world to use. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of pushback, but for the most part, I think AI is going to dominate headlines in 2024. Well, I mean, look, we haven't even seen, we're still in the infancy of AI. And I've said before, the AI we should really be looking at is when you ask an AI to make an AI,
and that's not that far away,
and
and we had a segment
it's
on
not
that.
that far away, and we call that, in the geek world, the singularity. The moment the AI makes a machine that's better than itself,
And then they could get nationality. That's
and
a
then we
rule.
enter
That's
the matrix.
I'm saying that there's a law like that.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure the AI of today can pass the Turing test. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that,
Nope.
but way back, Alan Turing, the pioneer of modern computing, he came up with this test that you could put potential AI through, and many have tried over the last 30 years of computing to try and get it to pass. You ask it questions and you see if it can pass for a human, for example. But I think today's AI can easily surpass that and even show up as more human,
I mean,
if that's a thing.
Daniel in our marketing department
Yeah, yeah.
is working on an AI video. And he saw it. He showed me a video that he clipped of himself, and it was all AI. And he's like, "That's not me
Yeah,
talking. I put in the words."
that's scary. Look, I've seen you speak fluent, Spanish. So, the world is amazing where we're going.
No, mi entiende español. Mi poco entiende. Poco
Ah,
hablo.
sí, señor.
I do speak a little bit,
Ah,
but
awesome.
not as good as AI makes me sound.
Look, for me, it's always about how we're going to be using it. It's supposed to be a tool, like anything else, a tool to make us better.
But at what
And
point is it,
yep.
like, there was a image this past year that was generated by
Oh
AI.
yes, I remember that with the Pope, right?
Yeah, with the Pope wearing this, puffer jacket. It was ridiculous, and you never know. Like,
But now hang on. The thing with that also, It's not about the AI generating that image, which was very good, sure. The issue with that is, once again, the failure of people to do, the bare minimum of research. Nobody checks sources. And back in the day, people used to do a lot of fake images, and say pass it off. I mean, I don't know if you've ever read Daily Mail in the UK, but they do it all the time. And my issue is nobody does their due diligence. We're just so quick to go, yes, what I'm seeing right now must be true because it's from
But
X, Y,
seriously,
and
do you know
Z.
what it costs? Do you like if a New York Times or one of these or whatever a certain syndicate sends out a certain piece and they got it wrong, they may correct themselves and it'll be in the back of page 8, page 9, or down in the website somewhere, and they
Yeah,
may correct themselves. But the damage is done. It's done.
yeah.
People in their
No,
head,
I hear you. It's
boom.
it's. I used to work in a newsroom where the mandate used to be get the news out first, and that is a very dangerous precedent to set because it wasn't about accuracy; it was just getting it out there. And there's just so much fake news out there. And this Pope thing that came out, it just highlighted that for me. Nobody bothered to do any kind of research, just went and said, this is fact, this is real, please keep sharing. It's just, yeah, it's scary. I was always taught that, especially in journalism, you needed at least minimum of 3 sources. And if you couldn't get that, something is dodgy about the information you have.
I don't think that's the rule today anymore. I
No,
think
not at
we're
all. We're more about get it out there, get it as quick as possible, in as front as many eyeballs as possible. Moving on. So, we spoke about stocks, and you spoke about inflationary environment. What's going to happen to indices? I mean, we've seen a major comeback of the S&P 500 in 2023.
but again, I
Is
think
that good?
that's more correlated to the fact that the markets are reflecting
Yeah.
um not real actual market. It's just taking into account that there's been inflation. So,
Okay.
yeah, the markets have gone up, but the markets have only gone up because there's inflation. So I don't think that that's, you know,
Okay. Fair enough.
a I don't think it's a market expansion. I don't think it's an economic expansion that we're currently in.
Okay. And I guess on a final note, what is your advice for traders in 2024?
So you know, you could look at 2024 in a nutshell, but realize that it's not a nutshell. It has 2023 that leads you into 2024. Um, and that's really important to note because without that, I don't think you can really you need context. Um, and sometimes when you have context, it gives you a clearer picture of what the current situation is. I think 2024 is going to be a year that we will see a lot of news driven opportunities as opposed to technical opportunities, market action opportunities, as opposed to, again, technical trading kind of opportunities. So, um, uh, like you say, make sure you get the right resources, anticipate, um, you know, a prepared trader is a profitable trader. Um,
Yeah.
just by the very fact, like I like to get up early in the morning, by the very
Right.
fact that I have heads up on the day, the rest of my day is much more productive. So if you're proactive to know what's coming out when, and you have a finger on the pulse and you're anticipating things, that's a very, very useful, very effective, and potentially very profitable trader.
Awesome. And I think on that note, we'll leave it there. Thank you, Fred, for all your awesome and advice and insights going forward.
My pleasure, Sergio.
Cool. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.